There are two things that anime fans hate to hear. To go outside, and the second being when they're told their favourite series is being remade in CG. Now, I like Trigun. It has spiky hair, a guy with a cross gun, desert, or my fellow desert enjoyers will understand. It had it all, and in the current era of remakes, if there wasn't enough anime already being made, it's Trigun's turn, and I won't lie, I was kinda keen until... Oh no, it's Studio Orange. That's cool. So, let's be real. In animation terms, like actual animation, how something moves, not how detailed a drawing looks, Trigun, like many standard 90s TV anime, was pretty limited, often relying on character art, storyboard, and direction to pull the visual weight, you could say. A lot of the classics did it. Dragon Ball Z, Rurouni Kenshin, Slam Dunk, and still is a common way to make up for the lack of animation. Now, of course, there was the first episode, which had some nice sakuga, as well as the final episode, which, I mean, makes sense. It's the first episode, you want to hook your audience in. Again, standard procedure. But overall, it wasn't anything out there in animation terms. Now, that's not to say its approach was bad or necessarily needed to be more, but it's worth pointing out because sometimes people can take like one clip of animation from these shows and be like, this is why 90s animation is the best. The newer animators will never top their passion, and talk as if you weren't looking at lip flaps for the other 90% of the show. So now that those people are in the comment section telling me why I am wrong, let's get into the meat and potatoes, as they say. Why is it CG? Will it look good? And what is this talk about an Orange? So Orange, if you had to take a pick of a studio you would like to handle a CG adaptation, they would be the one. Even as someone who doesn't feel much for 3D, especially when it comes to anime, you know, I could talk smack about CG and anime all day. There's a plethora of examples over the decades where the two just didn't mesh, but also, admittedly, instances where it was pulled off well. Even so, I've mentioned before, and I will again, there's a sense of approachability with something hand-drawn. It gives you this feeling of like, I could draw that. The lines also have an organic feeling, whether it's from a pen tablet or a pencil. The lines vary in width and texture. There's a sense of life compared to something fixed in place. A line that is tied to the very character. And so with saying all that, for then a studio to be able to still capture that 2D feeling regardless, while also not compromising on the advantages of 3D either, is not only unique but incredibly difficult. And the guys there at Orange absolutely deserve the recognition they have for doing it. But how do they get that 2D appeal in there? Well, this stems from the fact that the staff don't see the two as completely separate mediums from each other, leading to a blend, a delicate one mind you, but a blend nevertheless between the two. For example, Land of the Lustrous and Beastars. Of no coincidence, they're regarded among some of the best CG works from the anime industry in recent years, or recent-ish, and the two mediums are used all throughout. Land of the Lustrous often had hand-drawn corrections over the top of models, or bringing in the GOAT himself, Norio Matsumoto, to animate a rough 2D version for some of the show's big moments, then have the animators reference that. In Beastars, they used a program to flatten the expressions, bringing it closer to a 2D look. For close-ups, they would often be straight up hand-drawn. Heck, they even had a full dream sequence animated using just coloured pencil by the talented Yoko Kuno. Then for one of the endings, the same thing again. Like, the integration of 2D is definitely not an afterthought. And you know, after looking at the new trailer, I think they've done it again. The models for one look excellent. If I'd never seen this trailer and you just like took these shots on screen and told me this was 2D, I would probably believe you. The only downside is that they had to change up the designs. It's fine. For one, the spiky Super Saiyan hair is swapped out with something less spiky. It looks cool, not as cool, but yeah, it's whatever for me. I don't really feel too strongly about it, but I'm sure there are some that care more than others. Hair has always been a bit of a problem to animate in 3D, and teams have gone to great lengths to pull it off convincingly. And no doubt Vash's porcupine hair would have been a little tedious to be constantly moving around, and could have looked like a muddled mess with the usual way shadows are applied, unless you did a lot of hand-drawn corrections or had fixed shading in place. Even the designs in the original anime simplified his hair quite a bit. And there are other things like his outfit. Again, never was the most simple design out there either, so makes sense they changed up his grip as well. Vash is upgraded from buttons to a zipper, character development at its finest. Besides that, it just moves really well and, like, consistently. Of course, you know, it's a trailer, you usually want to feature some of your best bits, but looking at the studio's track record, again across the aforementioned shows, for one, their action scenes have always been spectacular. I really don't think that was ever a concern, but man, the amount of detailed character acting that's like always trailed throughout their work. Like, of course, I love some blood pumping action like anyone else. I think the amount of times I've talked about action animation on this channel is proof enough, but the extra level of emotion that can be conveyed by the former is for one severely underrated, but two, such an important detail to helping those key moments to hit home. And Orange is pretty aware of that. So on the animation front, while I'll always take 2D over 3D at the end of the day, this will be a much more lively show in that department, and for that, I'm genuinely looking forward to it. But now that we've talked about the meat, now the potatoes. Why 3D? Well, it isn't because 3D equals cheap and they can magically make millions of dollars with the click of a button. Actually, it's much the opposite. I mean, which do you think is cheaper? Man who needs paper and pencil to animate, or man who needs computer with expensive software that can sit in the 4-figure range? I think that answer is kinda obvious. CG can very much be expensive and time consuming. There's a reason that when there were side characters or props on B-Stars, that didn't appear too much. The staff just opted for 2D because it just works out quicker to draw them than creating an entirely new model and rigging it all up. Also, generally 3D animators are paid higher wages and a million other things. Overall, CG just takes a lot more work than it's given credit for and is severely downplayed. Anyway, instead of speculation, let's actually just look at what the show's producer, Mr. Takei, and series director Muto had to say. Takei mentioned earlier this year that the original manga is a masterpiece in and of itself, and so was the 98 anime. However, quote, "But I thought that as animation, we can do something else with it, and that's how I came up with 3D CG. The best studio to do it is Orange, which is why I asked them to do it." Not crazy detailed, and I'm sure there was a bit more to that decision, but it's clear that he holds both the manga and the anime in high regards. So from his perspective, why should a reboot just take the same route it has before? Why not change up the medium? Anyway, Muto in a separate statement mentions, rather than simply tracing the original manga that started 27 years ago, we wanted to define the meaning of creating this work as an entertainment piece in this day and age. Interestingly enough, for Land of the Lustrous, the series director echoed pretty much the same view, like of both these guys. Upon reading the original manga, I was left with the impression that it would be difficult to surpass it by just copying what was on the page panel by panel, and that if we were to animate it, it should be done in CG. Apparently Takei as well was like thinking the same the whole time. But yeah, overall, I know there'll be that one dude who'll be like, "Are you blind? This looks awful." But you know, that's just my big brain thoughts, and honestly, while making this video and diving into Orange's work, which I'd only like read about briefly before, my opinion on the medium used for this new series has very much changed. Personally, I am really looking forward to it. Of course, there will still be holdouts, I get that, but this project has been in the making for almost about 6 years now. The team seems really passionate, and I think you can still respect the hard work while not liking the medium choice itself. But with that, thank you for watching, and check out our sponsor Fandom Eon. The chili season is approaching, so you know, if you want to get some Zoro drip, use the link in the description and use the code RELIC for a discount. And of course, shout out to my patrons. But yeah, with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.